This time we wander to a country that has worn itself thin. The air is damp with spring and smoke, lilac crowds the broken fences, and the roads are soft with ash. I walk where people have been holding their breath for too long, and the day feels as if it is balanced on the lip of a glass. I come at daybreak to a town that used to have a name and now has a habit of whispering. A market square of cobbles, buckled by tank treads, a fountain with a chipped triton, a horizon of roofs gnawed away by fire. A few windows have been mended with cardboard, and on those the night clings like a damp rag. The baker's shop door tilts on a hinge, but inside the old oven glows with a stubborn heartbeat. The woman who tends it looks up when I enter, as if seeing anyone in this hour is a relief. She works with flour that is not flour. Barley, potato, what the ration cards allow, what her cousin smuggled from the countryside. Her hands are pale, but her nails are rimmed with soot, and when she pulls loaf, the crust crackles like a small applause. She nods at me, a stranger in a dark coat, as if I were a customer she had been expecting for years. "Hurry," she whispers, though there is no one to chase us out, and she wraps the loaf in paper pulled from a ledger, columns of numbers kissed by a stamp the empire thought eternal. On the counter sits a tin of coffee that is not coffee, roasted chicory that smells faintly sweet and burnt. Steam braids itself into the cold room. She does not charge me. Perhaps the habit of money is a stubborn weed, but the soil is dead. Outside, the square begins to notice itself. Two boys on bicycles with wooden rims coast past. Their face is pinched and solemn in a way children should never learn to shape. Wooden rims do not sing on the stones. They clatter softly, apologetically, while a third boy, smaller, tries to keep up with a length of rope for a belt and a satchel that used to belong to a postman. He wears a cap with a button replaced by string and looks muffled by the effort of being brave. He glances up at the church clock, which says a steadfast 6:10, and has said so for months. Time here has been arguing with itself. Around the corner, a man in a gray uniform without insignia is attempting to be nobody. His hair is newly cut. He carries his jacket folded over his arm as if it belongs to his brother. His boots have lost their shine under a paste of yellow dust and city grit. He pauses to study a notice board where older proclamations, rations, curfews, orders have dulled to the color of parchment. A newer sheet has been slapped over them with paste that still glistens faintly. It says, "Nothing decisive. Keep calm. Keep home. Cooperate with authorities. Punish looters." It is a voice asking a hurricane to close its eyes. The man looks at me with a kind of weary amusement, then away and then back again. He is waiting for a catastrophe to decide what shape he will be in it. The wind lifts and the smell of the town changes. Old smoke, wet masonry, lilacs, a string of sausages someone is boiling 2 floors up, the phenolic sting of a field hospital that has bloomed where a dancing school used to be. A woman in an apron simply hangs a white sheet from her window as if it were laundry, and in response other windows find the same courage, white cloths rippling like gulls. In some places they tie handkerchiefs to broom handles, a domestic surrender. A little boy tries to wave a pillowcase and nearly tips over the rail. His grandmother yelps, snatches him back, kisses his hair, and keeps the pillowcase aloft. At the tram stop, a line of people waits for a tram that will not come, but the habit of waiting is one of the few sturdy things left. A man checks his pocket watch that has been wrong since the power station went dark, shrugs and slips it away as if he has finally understood the joke time has been telling him. An older woman, bareheaded, clutching a shopping basket with a broken handle, hums to herself, a melody from a year when no one was missing. Through the intact pane of the tobacconist's window, I see the shape of a cigar box, the lid ajar, empty except for the printed woman with her coy shoulders. She has been watching this street longer than anyone else still alive. I walk out toward the edge of town, past the school with its blackboard still announcing arithmetic questions, past the allotment gardens where someone has planted onions in a grid neat enough to qualify as prayer. The air is alive with swallows at knee height, stitching the day together. In a ditch beside the road, a truck hunches on bare rims, the canvas flaps charred into lace. It has been picked clean. The only thing left is the smell of burnt oil and a small brass bolt that will spend the next 50 years sleeping under nettles until a boy with a stick and a restless heart finds it and carries it home. This road leads to a bridge, wood and iron, patched in 16 places, stamped by an engineer 3 wars ago. It arches over a slow river that has been carrying the town's secrets downstream without complaint since the first church bell. On the far bank, a woman secures her chickens and reads the sky. On this bank, a gendarme leans on his bicycle and tries to look official without a hat. The planks thrum underfoot. The river is a mirror that keeps wanting to forget. When I reach the center of the bridge, a convoy arrives. Not soldiers, not in the way they have taught themselves to be. These are families filtered through 10 different roads. Their cartwheels chew the dirt. A piano shares a wagon with a lamp and a cradle. A cow lumbers with its rope lead, held by a woman whose hands have forgotten how to let go. A boy carries a picture frame with no picture in it. Their eyes will not meet yours for fear of drowning. If you say, "Where from?" they say, "East." And that word is a cart full of ghosts. An old man, walking beside a woman who must be his daughter, holds in his coat pocket a paper that says he once taught Latin. And the paper has become ridiculous, and still he keeps it like a saint's bone. One of the carts halts. A young woman inside is breathing with the steady urgency of the tide. A midwife appears without being called, as if she had been standing at the side of the road only for this. They lay down blankets that used to be tablecloths and hang one white sheet on the cart's side as a modest wall against the world. The older children become sentries and translators. The air thins with waiting. If you lean your ear toward the sky, you hear a plane far off, but it is simply the old plane, the one that never lands. The child arrives, quiet for a moment, then furious, and everyone laughs in relief. He is wrapped in a shirt that still smells faintly of coal and father. On the bridge, between what is behind and what is ahead, a boy is born who does not yet know he is the future's neighbor. The midwife tucks a coin in the baby's fist, something copper she had been saving for bread, because that is what she has. On the slope by the bridgehead, a radio, a Volksempfänger, with its brown bakelite face and worn grill, hums weakly from a window. It has eaten the last of its valves to keep talking. The voice that comes through is both near and very far away. It says nothing clearly, only that something large has happened somewhere else. The words break like waves on stones we cannot see. A passerby, a younger man in a sweater mended at the elbows, stops to tilt his head and listen. He nods, not as one who has learned something, but as one who has finally been told the name of a fever he has had for days. In this same hour, in a courtyard where an oak has stood through 3 governments and 1 wedding that mattered, a group of soldiers stands in a loose ring. Uniforms faded in a way that makes them equal. They are burning papers, orders, lists, inventory, maps with neat symbols that explained in black lines how a continent was supposed to behave. The fire flickers in a metal barrel, and the men feed it as if feeding a pet they are ashamed of. One of them, a tall man with the skin under his eyes stained by sleeplessness, holds a packet of photographs, not of atrocities, not those, of home, a wife on a bicycle,
A child climbing down the back steps, snow on a sill. He hesitates, then does not throw them in. Instead, he slides them into the jacket he is not sure he will keep. In the cellar under the school, the field hospital's light is a hard white song. The air has been scoured with carbolic. It peels the inside of the nose. A young surgeon, with inked initials on his cuff, sews skin to skin with a concentration that excludes history. He has a way of lowering his head and then tilting it, as if adjusting a lens to bring the life into focus. He does not look up when the nurse speaks his name, once, twice. The wounded boy on the table keeps humming the smallest fragment of a tune every time he exhales. It is not a song of war, but a part of a love song that he heard on a gramophone in a room he cannot quite remember. The nurse is older than she planned, and her hands are a liturgy of skill. She replaces a dressing. She nods to me, to herself, to the room, to anyone who is still listening. On a shelf nearby, a tin of sweets without sweets. The label shows a smiling sailor pointing at the future. By noon, the town's voices have changed. People speak not to be obeyed, but to be heard. A policeman, no longer certain what that means, tries to direct the traffic of refugees around a square in which the statue has been toppled and now points to the earth. He says, one at a time, and it is more prayer than order. A pair of sisters argues in the doorway to their flat over whether to hide the portrait of a nephew in uniform or to carry it openly. The older one wins, not because she is older, but because she has kept the rent paid through 3 winters by carrying water without complaint, and the younger one remembers this and hands the portrait back. On the ground floor, an old man takes down a sampler that says "Got with us" and folds it into the bottom of a drawer with torn tax demands and the birth certificates of people who have not been born. There is the sound of engines, the slow, unhurried persistence of trucks that know the road, not the hiss of tracks, not the howl of dive bombers, something different. People hold their breath, then release it, some in relief, some in grief fed by a story that has ended. The first truck noses around the corner, and the men in it are tired in a different uniform. They look as if they have slept sitting up for a year. They glance at the white flags, at the hunched houses, at the children whose eyes are too large, and their faces do not harden or soften. They simply receive. One of them, clean-shaven, raises a hand to scratch his jaw, and then turns the gesture into a small wave. A boy waves back, solemn, as if signing a treaty.
On the truck bed, a radio that spits a clearer language says what the other radio was trying to say. Somewhere else, in a room with maps and low voices, a signing has happened. A pen has made a line that separates world from world. The soldiers here are not surprised. They nod, they check their watches, they lean to speak to their sergeant about where to park. They have come down 1,000 such streets, and each one is alcohol and dust. A woman steps forward with a metal bucket and tries a greeting she has not used in years. The soldier nods. She says it again. They both smile because they have met at the seam where words touch and do not bruise. In a courtyard, a boy has found a harmonica, and his music is hesitant at first, then finds a spine. It carries above the mutter of engines and the calls of the policeman and the high cry of a baby. He finds a tune everyone knows, then one only his father would have known, and he looks sideways as if expecting to be wrong. No one stops him. A soldier, an enemy, name it, slows as he passes, puts his hand in his pocket, and takes out a chocolate bar that has been broken into 3 unequal squares. He offers one.
The boy looks up at his mother, who is 1,000 miles tall, and she nods without nodding, and the boy takes it. On his tongue, the taste of cocoa is an encyclopedia volume he did not know was missing from his shelf. Later, in a garage that once made good money fixing bicycles and now repairs luck, a man is taking his radio apart and then putting it together again, because doing so keeps his hands busy while his mind undoes itself. He has hidden parts of it under the floorboards while others came and searched. He has taught himself how to coax the voice in and out of the machine like a genie. He tunes, listens, tunes again. He finds one station in the east that refuses to be clear. He finds another from somewhere farther west that speaks of unconditional, a word heavy as an anchor and also buoyant. And he laughs when he hears it, actually laughs, because he is alive to hear such a complicated word. In the corner of the garage, a girl draws on the concrete with a brick, a kind of red that remembers roofs and hands. She draws a house with 4 windows, then rubs one window away and draws a tree. The last afternoon arranges itself in long light. If you stand at the edge of the football field, you can see 3 levels of sky, a sheet of gray, a seam of blue, and a drift of white that is neither. 2 boys kick a ball with stiff legs because their trousers are too tight. They argue about an imaginary offside. They agree, without knowing they do, that today they will not keep score. A woman hangs laundry and pins a shirt to the line with clothespins that have become rare as peaches. Across the alley, a man scrubs the enamel sink he has moved into the yard because the water in the kitchen comes hot and then not at all. He has learned to make camp wherever he is. He will be good at peace if anyone lets him. In the schoolyard, a teacher opens the windows of a classroom to let out the smell of chalk and human hope. He has taught lists of rivers and declensions of verbs that tonight will be ridiculous and tomorrow again useful. On his desk, a dictionary lies open to the word for forgive, and he has put his finger there without noticing. He considers what to tell the children, who will return as soon as someone allows them to be children. He thinks perhaps he will begin with the geography of the town, the river, the bridge, the 4 roads, and then ask each child to draw the one object they would carry to the next life if they had to. He makes a note: do not speak of glory, speak of mending, speak of bread. On the high street, a refugee family has found a doorway to sleep in. They will not sleep. The father counts, silently, a rosary of names, lips barely moving. The mother unrolls 2 blankets and looks at the window glass as if it might betray her by turning back into water. The older child lies on her side, eyes open, hand under her cheek. The younger, the boy born on the bridge, whimpers, then roots. A woman across the street notices, crosses, pauses, steps back, crosses again, and offers a tin bowl with potato soup. It has more water than anything else, and it is a gesture that again keeps the world in one piece for another hour. She does not ask where they come from. She no longer believes in places. She asks the baby's name. The mother says a name that means God's gift, and for once that phrase is not sentimental. A bell rings from the church, once, twice, as if testing its throat. Then it begins in earnest. Not the alarm bell, no clanging, no call to the cellars, a measured ringing that puts a handle on the day. The organist has propped open the door to the organ loft with a volume of hymns, and a thin register spills into the air like flour through a sieve. He has not played for months. The pews are empty, but the stairs remember each foot. He chooses a melody that is neither triumph nor mourning, something that has the shape of a hand laid on a brow. A woman standing in the doorway sets down her basket because the music has asked her to have 2 hands free for remembering.
Night begins earlier than it should. It has been doing so for years. The streetlights are slow to wake. A lamplighter, I had forgotten lamplighters still existed here, sets the last lantern to burn outside the town hall, whose doors now bear two notices, one in a language the town has used for centuries, and one in another that smells faintly of the sea. A clerk with a narrow mustache leans over his ledger, strikes a line through a list of ration numbers, and writes a new heading in a hand that does not waver. Inventory of roofs, inventory of stairs, inventory of spoons. He knows that the first economies are made of teaspoons. In the same evening, on the road out past the mill where barley is now more valuable than arguments, a column of men in uniform walks toward a wide field marked by a white cross on a placard. They hold their hands away from their bodies, as if those hands have been injured by using them in a certain way. They pass through a gate held open by a boy in a too large coat. On a table inside the field sits a tin cup and a ledger. A man seated there asks names and writes them down, sometimes spelling them in a way that changes the name slightly, but not the man. A kettle steams nearby. The line moves. A soldier reaches the table, gives his name, and waits. He looks around as if expecting someone to burn this scene back into the world as a lasting photograph. It is not photographed. The stars come up. The kettle is refilled by a volunteer who was once a seamstress. The ledger will survive in a drawer and one day become the only proof that a certain man was here, and therefore, later, alive. In a flat above the carpenter's shop, a girl with a black ribbon in her hair looks out over the street through a rectangle of night. She has wrapped herself in a shawl that used to be her mother's. She is 16 in a year that has made everyone older, and she leans her forehead against the pane and fogs it. She writes her name in the fog with a fingertip. She writes his name, a boy from a class who left 2 springs ago, and then she wipes the glass clear with the palm of her hand as if erasing could save her. On the table behind her lies an open book of poems. She has read one line 3 times and still not learned it. She says it out loud now and hears it for the first time. She turns down the page. Her future is waiting at the corner with its hands in its pockets. It will walk her home when she is ready. Elsewhere, in a house whose front steps have cracked and yet remember every footfall with affection, an old woman sits by a window and darns socks with care a clockmaker would envy. She darns not because anyone will walk to war in them tomorrow, but because it is what she knows. One sock belongs to her son, who has been dead 4 years on a road that is not in any atlas she owns. She sews it anyway. She is making the road back to him 1 stitch at a time. The light on her lap is the color of tea. The radio says the same clear thing again and again, with variations. She nods and ties off a thread with a knot she could tie in the dark. And oh, there are the children. In an alley between 2 houses that lean together like conspirators, a child has found a cat. It is not beautiful. Its eye is torn. Its tail is a question. The child offers it a scrap of bread, then laughs at himself for forgetting cats do not eat bread, then breaks off a piece anyway and puts it down because even if the cat does not want bread, he wants the cat to know someone would have given it. The cat looks at him the way cats have always looked at people, as if the whole species is a coincidence. It takes the bread and carries it away to eat in private. In the barracks on the edge of town, stripped now of weapons, but rich in blankets patched with 10 different hands, a girl about 10 practices saluting in a cracked mirror and then giggles at how solemn she looks. Her mother calls her name and she comes at once, because this is a day one does not keep a mother waiting. They share a piece of hard candy a soldier has given them. They break it with a hammer she is using to fix a chair. They both suck the sweet with a care that keeps their teeth quiet. The girl says she wants to be a tram conductor when trams return. The mother says that would be good work. The girl asks if there will be tickets, and the mother says, of course.
and they both laugh at the idea of paper being used for something as gentle as permission. Night grows thick. There are no sirens. There are footsteps. There are doors shut softly. There is the hum of the generator in the town hall that gives light to a single lamp. In the cellar of the house at the corner, neighbors share a pot of pea soup, counting each pea as if reading a rosary. A man tells a joke that is not funny, and everyone is grateful. A woman pours the last of the beer into 3 cups and hands them to the oldest men in the room. The oldest men drink and do not toast anyone. The youngest man clears his throat and says he will go upstairs at midnight and listen to the radio so he can come down and tell them what day it is. Not what time, what day. Somewhere down the road, beyond the last house, beyond the last sigh, an explosion goes up, far away, a delayed echo of a day that is ending. People pause, then resume whatever small miracle they were engaged in. Cutting bread, washing hands, mending a sleeve, staring at the ceiling, closing their eyes without fear. The night accepts the noise and then teaches quiet again.
There is one more thing. In a room at the back of a doctor's house, a cabinet filled with bottles that have held hope in various strengths, a woman presses her hand to her belly and feels the faint flutter there. She has not told anyone, not yet. She knows that to carry something into a future that no one has described is to be both selfish and brave. She whispers a name, and then shakes her head and whispers another. Outside her window, a truck downshifts, and then is gone. You will say, but what of the men who did the worst things? What of the guilt? What of the punishments? Yes, they're here too. In the edges of the alleys, in the shadows of rooms and offices where shelves still carry folders that are uncomfortably neat. Some run. Some lie down and close their eyes and pretend to sleep. Some stand and wait to be named. The day does not absolve them, but the day itself is not a judge. It is too busy becoming night to pronounce sentence. In a basement, 2 men argue in whispers about whether they ever had a choice. Upstairs, a boy learns to wash dishes. These are not equal stories. They coexist, and existence is not forgiveness. By midnight, the town is wrapped, not safe, but folded. The church clock that has insisted on 1 hour all year now decides, whimsically, to move its minute hand 2 ticks. Someone must have climbed up there with a wrench and a sturdy belief in symbolism. On the bridge, where the boy was born, the river reflects a few stars, as if counting them. The sheet that served as a wall has been taken down and warmed a shoulder. The midwife has gone home, with a tiredness so clean it almost looks like peace. I sit for a moment on the steps of the fountain with Triton, who points eternally to the east as if to say, there, that is where water comes from. A cat shivers past my ankles, closes one eye and then the other. A truck slows and then stops and then idles. On the 2nd floor above the cobblers, a man scrapes butter from the last inch of paper and spreads it on 2 thin slices and gives the thicker one to his wife. They laugh because the knife clinks against the rim of the jar and makes a civilized sound. Somewhere far beyond hearing, a signature dries. Somewhere else, another one. I stand and walk the length of the square. The flags flutter as if whispering a language in which every word is maybe. The air is suddenly colder, a seam of it cutting through the warm. I put my hand on the stone of the town hall, and it holds the day's heat in its marrow. I think of the ledger inside, with its inventory of spoons. I think of the girl writing names in the fog. I think of the boy who learned the taste of chocolate, like learning the plural of a word he already knew. I think of the woman darning socks for a ghost, and of the baby with a coin in his fist, and of the soldier who kept photographs in his jacket even as he burned orders that told him he belonged to something irredeemable.
This is how wars end. I have seen it. Not with the clean pain of history shattering all at once, but with the quiet accumulation of small survivals. A kettle refilled, a spoon counted, a sheet hung from a window, the exact pitch of a bell when it is permitted to ring for something other than death. The human voice discovering once again that it knows how to speak without shouting. Men stepping into a field to become prisoners and therefore live. A midwife who has saved her copper coin for bread and spends it on a name. Tomorrow, someone will write a date on a wall. Tomorrow, the school will erase the arithmetic and draw a map of a smaller country. Tomorrow, a soldier will replace his helmet with a hat that does not fit. But tonight is the last night before the name of the war becomes past tense, and that tense is tender. I do not judge these people. I do not forgive them. I do not condemn them. I have no such powers, no such responsibilities. I walk and I watch, and time moves around me like a river changing its mind. I know what the books will say. They will speak of headquarters and capitulations, of signatures and reams, and again in another city that will become a symbol. They will list divisions and dates and names of men with pencils and cigarettes. They will not forget everything, but they will forget the taste of chicory and a cold bakery at 6 in the morning, and the way a harmonica found itself in a boy's pocket, and the seriousness with which a girl practiced saluting herself in a mirror, and how a ledger learned to count spoons. I have walked through empires that thought they knew how to endure, and through huts that knew how to endure better. I have watched a discovery lift a human life into light, and watched kindness do the same thing in a smaller room. The end of this war, like all endings, is not one thing. It is a choir, and some voices are ragged, and some are clear, and some are ashamed, and some are forgiven, and some are simply tired. It does not resolve as music should. It fades, and people go on singing other songs because they must. When I turn away from the square, the fountain sighs, and the cat follows me for 3 steps and then forgets me. The trucks settle, the harmonica becomes a memory that smells of dust and brass. The woman with the soup washes the bowl in a bucket with water that has to do too much work. The radio says the same thing again, and it is finally true because enough people believe it. The day lets go of the night, and the night opens its hand and gives the day back. I walk out of the town by the road where the onions are planted in their careful regiment, their green shoots modest as new sentences. The bridge is quiet behind me. The river does as it has always done. The lilac is too fragrant for this much sorrow, but does not apologize. In the distance, in a different country of light, someone laughs because milk boiled over. This is also history. This is also victory. I step into the dark that will become morning. My coat remembers the warmth of the bakery, and the air remembers the white flags, and the road remembers 1,000 feet that did not run. I leave them there, at the edge of a day that has finally chosen a side. Not theirs, not mine, simply the side of continuing. The world moved on, and so did I, to another forgotten hour.